Hello everyone, this is Caillou. I'm joined by Pipsqueak, and today we're going to be commentating the round one match between Philippe and Dodger. Philippe is on essentially Temur Concord, which ironically is a deck that Dodger theory crafted, and it was actually Dodger's first long form video in which he built up this list. Meanwhile, on Dodger's end, he's playing red green Wanderfall, which is essentially like an aggressive mid range deck which uses a bunch of cards which care about landfall, a bunch of cards which care about number of different land names you control, and just kind of aims to build up a huge aggressive board, as well as having rebuilding elements with its mid-rangey stuff.
One thing I'm going to briefly note is that uh, Philippe's deck isn't just Dodger's theory crafted child. Dodger actually 4-1 a league with it
hmm
a couple days ago.
Yeah. So I realized I didn't really mention what the Concord list is about. So Concord is a mechanic which basically says if you have four or more types among permanents you control, then you get an effect. So Dodger's list takes some powerful cards that just happen to be multiple types, and then puts them all into this shell which aims to abuse Concord cards like Sights Beyond. There's like a 5/5 for what 3 5/5 for 3 lifelink trample haste monster. So essentially, you get a lot of value for the low cost of playing some slightly not as great cards, and sometimes even just good cards.
Yeah. So already here, I think I've seen the first decision point I disagree with one of the players on. So Dodger chose not to have the towering bows and untapped, and instead chose to just cast the splitting bloom um, off the Keen's Devoted and tapping the Tropical Grove. Whereas actually, if instead of playing that towering bows, Dodger had just played the shifting crag,
hmm
could have cast the splitting bloom off it and still had the ability to fetch and crack the shifting crag in order to create two tokens immediately, which could be a relevant amount of pressure. It doesn't look like Philippe is going to be doing much in this early game.
I mean, Philippe
It's
does have
still
turn two Union Rail, turn three Helen, make a construct, and then just kind of.
that's true. I suppose can play the Union Rail proactively like that, which makes a lot of sense. Um,
Of course, the problem with running out the Helen then is if by that time Dodger builds up enough of a board that Philippe can't safely -2 her, stuff starts to get whack. Because I think Philippe's hand assume if Philippe top decks some other stuff, fine. But for now, the Helen is mostly going to be used for to dig for please just non-land cards.
Yeah, I mean, the Helen down tick can draw two cards, but I think all she's going to be is a divination because Dodger will have enough tokens by then to kind of attack around whatever board Philippe has to offer.
hmm
All right, we're running out of things to talk about. All right, unmute.
Okay, Sabne's Autumn changes stuff around here, but the interesting thing is that oh no, it has Wayfarer Shrine, so it can just Wayfarer Shrine, Sabne's Autumn, and then kind of off to the races that way.
Does that deck run a second basic forest?
Actually important. If it doesn't, then I question running Sabne's
It
Autumn.
runs a forest. It runs both a forest and a snow covered forest.
Okay, cool. Oh, but it's playing the
Um,
island. Looks like it's gonna Union Rail
yeah, it
Strike
looks
Breaker
like
instead.
leading with Union Rail, trying to maximize the value he gets out of that card, which is understandable.
hmm
Um, Something worth noting is Dodger can actually play the Seeker of New Horizons here by playing Shifting Crag and using the Splitting Boom to sacrifice the sapling. And the turn 3
Wait,
Seeker,
wait, wait. Doesn't even need to use the Splitting Bloom. Can just play Shifting Crag and then not sacrifice. Just use it for mana.
well, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but then
Still
all.
needs to use the Shifting Bloom because it's a 5 drop.
Oh, it's a 5 drop. Never mind.
Yeah.
Whoops. For some reason, I thought it was a four
But
drop.
can still crack the Shifting Crag to start to proc the Seeker.
hmm
And I think if I'm Dodger, that's what I'm doing here. The other line that I assume he's thinking about is you can play the Shifting Crag, tap it for mana, crack it, dungeon it back, and then slam Champion of Scales and try to get more pressure on that way.
hmm
But
I think
I
you're
think
very much looking for a fourth land here, so you can just champ scales, and the best way to do that is Seeker.
Yep, and it looks like he agrees with us. I think. Well, I mean, he also would have gotten the fourth land by doing the Sanjin line. I think one thing that's really important about Secret here is getting it in under any interaction. Um, I'm not sure if there's anything I should do or say here. Um, it's kind of unusual that Dodger would have to be in this circumstance, but here we are.
And the
Um,
circumstance being having to spawn copies of the.
yeah, relevant cards.
Yeah, so to explain what's happening to the audience, Philippe apparently doesn't have an updated version of Cockatrice, so cannot see the cards. So Dodger's having to spawn images of them for Philippe.
Yeah.
Um,
The main thing that I'm going to note here, which I was about to say, is when you're in these types of mid-range mirrors, the most important thing you can do is go over the top. And Secret New, you either need to go way over the top or get way in under people. Um, Philippe wasn't able to get in under Dodgers, so now the question is who's going to go more over the top of the other one.
mhm. Which, to be
Um,
fair, Sabne's Autumn plus Helene could prove the start of that. You just ramp up, draw a bunch. But Champion of Scales is just such a backbreaking card.
See, I don't even think the champion is going to matter. Like that's the truth. Is just Secret of New Horizons is going to be drawing Dodgers so many cards here.
Yeah, so like you crack it, sanction it back, and then you get like three. So yeah, you get like three triggers off this one shifting crag. Jesus.
And also, if you hit a land, Secret always either ramps you or draws you a card. And it keeps ramping you until it draws you a card.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yep.
Oh my god, hitting the shifting crag is huge because this means not only does
start
it keep
start
hitting,
start chaining.
once it breaks, once the chain ends, it's going to continue. It's going to start back up again. Goes into his hand.
Wait, what?
Why? Because he can play it untapped? Yeah, because he can play it untapped because he has 2 additional land drops. So this allows him to make a colorless mana that he wouldn't otherwise be able to make. Remember how we were talking about the importance of like knowing your deck and knowing your lines? This is an instance of Dodger knowing that because I totally would have forgotten that that was an option.
Yeah. I did not know that was a May, and I completely forgot that it gives you two more.
Oh Jesus, Vivid Mirage going to hand is a very scary moment for Phil
Mm-hmm.
because Vivid Mirage on a fetch land is just going to basically end the game on the spot.
Okay, so gonna shifting crag right here.
What kind of main deck interaction does Phil's deck run?
I just looked. I
Um,
think literally none. It's very much just like I'm going to
yeah,
do better stuff than you. I'm going to go bigger, do better.
if Fiona and Volta look like its only things, otherwise they can just beat you to death with like Seismic Colossus. But I think that kind of means we're done here, which is a little bit early to be calling this. But the amount of value Dodger has just generated here and now,
I mean, top
um,
deck Seismic Colossus is not nothing. I think that still like puts in some beats, but I
I
guess
mean,
I guess you just eat
you
it.
just take yeah you take 5, you say ow, and then you untap and you play your 2 mana 8/7. Like
Hmm. So wait, so what did Dodger get off of the Seeker of New Horizons?
he drew a camouflaged
Oh,
Spareos.
Sparios. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Now the real question is, next turn will Dodger try to start casting threats, or is he just going to try to generate more value with Vivid Mirage?
I mean, the question is why not both? Now at this point, can Champion of Scales swing for four with that, and like why not? And then because like I'm personally very high on Champion of Scales, and I think four flying hasty, not bad. And then you can also just Vivid Mirage and try to draw up your deck essentially.
Yeah, Vivid Mirage. Let's be reasonable here. Is only putting you up 4 cards plus all the ramp, plus any additional procs off shifting
Yeah,
crack.
not it.
Nothing too massive.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you're saying that ironically or unironically, but I think that's
I'm saying it very ironically.
Yeah, okay, thank God, Jesus. I was like, hmm.
Um, Sabnace drawing into another Sabnace is kind of annoying. I think from here you just play the Lumbering Hillock, play the Wilted Lotus, and pass. Um, Phil missing a Union Rail trigger. Let's see if he misses the one off the Wilted Lotus as well.
Yeah, Union Rail is not just a textless 1/1. Okay, gets the second one at least. Oh no, okay.
Yeah, it's doing both, which is fine. It's like out of order sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that if Dodger called Phil out on, I'm pretty sure there's some things to discuss. But out of order sequencing usually permits you to make your tokens at the end of a flurry of spells. Not a huge deal.
Okay, so Dodger has a lot of options here, a lot of things to think about. I think you lead with the Vivid Mirage just to see what you draw into.
Yep, absolutely. You want to know what cards you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you don't want to tap the Tropical Grove for mana, because you want to keep
Be able
open,
to fetch it, yeah.
yeah, more
Okay.
triggers.
Vivid Mirage on the Tropical Grove, yep.
There'll be 2 triggers here. This will generate a lot of value.
I have to say, I kind of like just like the aesthetics of the Splitting Bloom versus the Union Rail. Both
Yeah.
2-drops that make their own 1/1 tokens, just in different
Both
ways.
1 and a mana.
Mm-hmm. Just, much easier to play lands than it is to cast
Oh my
spells.
god, drew another Seeker of New Horizons, and another Splitting Bloom.
Well,
I think in Dodger's spot here, I would want to tap my 2 mana dorks to play the second Splitting Bloom, before I start cracking these lands.
mm-hmm.
But I also think there's no wrong way to eat this Reese's bar at this point. Like, you are generating more value than your mid-range opponent can keep up on. You're gonna have to discard to maximum hand size soon. Um, the main thing that I think Dodger is digging for at this point in time is Into the Unknown,
Oh yeah, because then
or
you
Scion of Flourishing, because with either of those two, this board just turns lethal pretty much immediately.
hmm And if not, then I keep harping on this. But if not, at the end of all this, can just play like what Champion of Scales, and then just be done with it.
I think Intrepid's better at this point in time, Caillou.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, did not.
I know Champion of Scales is your boy, but Intrepid's kind of the better 4/4 flyer in this format.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't notice that he drew Intrepid. hmm Oh yeah. Oh, Last Sacred
Oh,
Gate.
because he
Because
has extra land place. Oh, that's so gross.
that is such a cool
Oh,
interaction.
that's an extra card worth of value. Jesus. Ugh.
hmm It just keeps going.
Still has 2 additional land drops to make this turn. Okay, I'm officially scared of Dodger's deck now.
Well, what? This is
My,
turn 4, right?
yeah? It was a turn 3 Secret of New Horizons. This is turn 4.
Wow.
Puts it into hand because he still has uh, 2 land drops this turn. Draws a Vivid Mirage. Can we pack this game up? I think this game's done. Because plays the Shifting Grove, then can Vivid Mirage it. Like, Dodger is drawing his deck.
See, that's just wait. Dodger's gonna overcommit, draw his entire deck. That's how this is gonna end. 100%. Definitely not with him winning. Overwhelmingly.
Oh, jeez. This is very fun to go off.
Man, this is like I think it, Cajun used to play Fast Bond with Seeker of New. I think it was Seeker of New
Yeah,
Horizons, right?
it was with Secret of New Horizons before the
I'm
rework
like
to
this.
Secret.
This just seems like Secret, like Fast Bond, except like you actually have like a reasonable mid-rangey game plan to back it up, and you're not like that fragile.
Yeah, you don't go literally infinite, but you go sufficiently finite. It feels.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that Dodger chose not to prioritize the Vivid Mirage on the shifting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess wants untapped lands, so that's kind of relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
I forgot that he still hadn't cracked the Tropical Grove. Oh man. I mean, I'm not saying Phil should concede, but I'm not saying that he should keep playing either.
I'm not saying... Okay, drew the Into the Unknown. This game is now over. I'm not saying Phil should concede. I'm saying Phil that should have conceded. It's like... it's not like a game on the ladder where you're potentially finding more info about your opponent's deck. This is an open deck list tournament. You know exactly what your opponent has, and the answer is enough to kill you.
Yeah, like if Phil had like a wipe to rely on here, I could definitely see keeping it up.
Right. If there were outs to draw into.
Like, okay, let's talk through this critically. Like, Phil's potential out here, before the Into the Unknown, was like Seismic Colossus, swing with it, you Dodger chump to the bunch, you gain 5, and you put a decent dent in Dodger's board, and then
the Dodger just untaps and does it again.
Yeah, and then like your hope is that Dodger takes enough damage callously from like fetch land triggers that you can like get the drop on him somehow.
I don't think any of that is real.
I'm just yeah. Also, Phil might just be doing this out of courtesy to Dodger. Sometimes you just want to let your opponent roll.
do their thing. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so it's gonna swing for the hills.
I think you block. I mean, so here's the issue: blocking these does take them off the board next turn, but it also means you don't have chump blockers next turn for the larger crew. But also, as we've said, to quote a very wise person, you're kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, there's not a magical thing that you are playing to. You know this game is done. You know you're dead. All you're doing is just playing it out.
Mm-hmm. And the Sparios just cleanly eats anything.
Yeah, the Sparios also means that your Seismic Colossus can't even attack. It has to just be on defense duty.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Yep, that's...
I mean, can still crack the... Oh god, is there anything better than when you've had one of those turns where you say, hang on,
I
need
must
to
discard
discard
the size.
God, look at just spewing that value. Discard 3 cards. 4 cards?
Not sure why they discarded down to 6, but you know.
I immediately realized it. Yeah, so unlucky. Look at that card disadvantage. Just having to pitch all of those. God.
Yeah, you know, that's the disadvantage of not going infinite. Maybe this deck actually does suck.
But yeah, it's, Phil still has a redraw off the Wilted Lotus, but as we've established, there's nothing to be redrawing into. Yeah, like, Helene, I think, is also just kind of admitting that, because, if you're down taking Helene, that's the turn. You don't have mana. You're, like, yes, you can play a land, you can technically play an Intrepid.
Wait, how?
Treasure plus Wilted plus,
plus...
Mountain.
Yeah, okay, fair.
But does any of that matter?
The Intrepid can block something? I don't know. I'm spitballing at this point. It has 2 blockers.
So actually, I think there was a slight mistake here, which is Dodger should have left around at least 1 fetch land to be able to Vivid Mirage, but it's okay, because Dodger can literally Intrepid to find a fetch land, play the fetch land, Vivid Mirage the fetch land, crack that fetch land, and put 4 +1/+1 counters on all of his creatures.
I think Into the Unknown is one that doesn't share a name.
Yeah, but you can make it happen. It's fine.
Yeah, not.
That's why I wasn't counting the fetch lands. I was just counting the things they were fetching.
Oh yeah, okay.
7, 8, 9. So just counting the sapling tokens alone, that would be 45 power swinging for funsies. Just between friends.
God.
Faye was talking earlier about playtesting against this deck, and mentioned casting Stand Determined.
Which makes it that whenever you take damage, you mill instead this turn.
Yeah,
and they still ended up losing.
They still overmilled by around 20 cards or something, and I was like, this sounds improbable. But now that I'm seeing this deck in action, I am like, okay, this makes sense. Also,
yeah, I think the main thing is
kill the Seeker. You always kill the Seeker.
Yeah, the main thing is how much does it depend on Seeker of New Horizons, I think is the worry. Because, I need to look over the list again. I don't know how much card draw there is, so I think that, the rest of the deck still seems, reasonably solid, but I think that you can more easily, grind it unless they find a Seeker.
I think I played against this deck, because I remember playing against Dodger when he was on a Vivid Mirage deck. I don't remember how that matchup went. I don't even remember what deck I was on. I don't even know if it was this deck.
Fever Dream.
I think I would have remembered if something like this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and a couple of other landfall triggers.
God. Dodger's you know what? This is a celebratory moment. We're going back to Zendikar, guys. Landfall time. Aren't you excited?
Dodger, please play the Spires. Please copy it. Please ignore your other triggers. Crack them all. And let's move on to game 2. Just for the sake of us. For the sake of us as viewers.
This is Dodger's moment. This is Dodger's world, and we're just living in it.
Yeah, no, I could do more, but this should be lethal. Yep, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Dodger, if you weren't going to do more, you should have activated the Wandering Hillock so that it could also get counters. Come on. Rookie mistake. Okay, good. Phil, I'm glad to know that was the point where you couldn't win.
Okay.
Always important to have one. Alright,
so let's look at sideboards.
Um,
So what interaction does Philippe have? I think is the most important thing to ask first, and the answer is actually a decent amount. Um,
you definitely want the temporary treasons. Bottle lightning isn't actually that good in this matchup.
yeah, because five
Um,
toughness is,
way too much.
one hell of a drug. Also, like a single into the unknown puts like splitting bloom out of reach, etc. You can bottle lightning the Keen's devoted, but like I don't think that's where
That's
you
not
want to
where you want
be.
to be. That's
Yeah,
not. I do think you want all three temporary treasons. I think you want to board out. Uh, it's hard. I would usually cut a land in this matchup. Like I would cut the precursor sanctum
I feel like you can
because I
easily
don't
cut a
think you can
land
afford to have lands here.
because you have arboreal
I
ruins.
might trim some of your top end, but as I mentioned, this whole matchup's about going over the top. Um, I just I don't feel like Phil has the best tools to go over the top here, so that kind of puts him into a beatdown role. And this deck is really awkward at being the beatdown unless it draws multiple seismic colossi. Um, Dodger, on the other hand, I mean, it's a mid-range matchup, so maybe you just bring in Pyroclastic Maw and just hope to hashtag get him. Ruinous Naga can kind of ball out of control, and also, yeah, I think I would want Ruinous Naga. All three copies seems great here. I Boarding out is really hard though because you're an engine deck, so you don't have a lot of cards you want to cut. I would probably cut Blood River because I don't think you need it. I think that's mostly for the combo matchups. Um, and I might cut Champion of Scales. I'm really sorry.
How dare you? I thought we were friends. Okay, but yeah, all of those sound like
Oh,
reasonable
sorry,
suggestions.
my headphones weren't working for a little bit, so uh,
I
if I
assume
was
that's
talking
also
over
why
you,
you sound so booming all of a
yeah.
sudden. Okay, cool. So we've drawn opening hands. It looks like did side oh wait, where are the void flares main? Let me just check that real quick. They're in fact not. So did side in the void flares.
It's
Um,
interesting because I mean Dodger built both these decks, so I wonder what the Void Flares are specifically here for, because they don't kill Seismic Colossus. Um, and that's kind of the card that I think matters most that Phil has.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Still has like a. Oh, he's just gonna play rugged outcropping and pass. I feel like no. I guess he didn't have a better option. Yeah. And then turn two,
Yeah,
you probably just Keen's devoted, and then you can. Yeah, like it's kind of rough because
this
you.
is kind of a slow hand. Dodger's deck should on paper mulligan really well. I'm a little bit shocked he wouldn't mulligan this because, especially because this is a matchup where you need to go fast. Or sorry, not you need to go fast. The only way you lose this matchup is Phil getting under you. You have the late game on lock.
Yeah, I think the thought was, hey, I have mana dorks, I have intrepid, I have interaction, I have seeker.
Mm-hmm.
All of those together are worth slowing down for, which I think
Yep.
debatable, but I think also like I don't. In my place, in his place, I probably would have kept this hand as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just looking at this hand and feeling like, wow, this feels so clunky because your turn one play is actually your turn two play, and you don't actually get much value off that mana door because you're not really casting Intrepid far ahead of curve.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Also, Elvish Opportunist to Elvish Opportunist. Interesting that Phil didn't. I feel like I would have cracked a treasure for a Wilted Lotus there. I don't know if that's just me.
it's kind of it is a low opportunity cost to do so. Um, I'm not that surprised that he didn't. I guess. I think in this spot, if you're Phil, you need to just slam Helene Trent. You need to immediately draw two cards. You swing with the Elvish Opportunist, and you play into next turn plus Helene and just start bashing in. Because you need to end this game right away. And Dodger is stumbling. Like, this is it's weird to say this is a turn two, like, has three mana source in play. Oh, this is a slow start. But this is undeniably a slow start for Dodger's deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
If Philippe does Helen though, Dodger can.
Dodger does, yeah, does get to Void Flare it, which is not something that I think should be on Phil's radar to play around. But also on the other hand, Phil has the backup plane, so you're still getting a nice clean 2-for-1. So you're fine, or
Yeah,
3-for-1, I guess.
like this is still very much in Philippe's favor.
Yeah,
Making Helen emblem. Helen has an emblem?
yes, she does.
Oh, whenever one of them
Notably,
works.
it's only yeah. I'm I'm worried that Phil misread this.
Whenever.
That it would draw for each.
Okay, still gets to draw off the Elvish Opportunist. That I guess the thought. No, I think the thing thought was like, hey, I have a second Helen anyways, so why not just run this one out? Which I can
Yeah,
understand the logic there. I'm gonna be real with you. I completely forgot that Helen had an alt that she could immediately use.
see, the main issue is it usually draws you more cards to just -2.
Yeah,
Um,
and like it's much better value to just keep her around. But I guess yeah, but I guess this is the one situation where you're like, well,
oh, you know what's sick? Blood River actually makes it so Kind's Devoted isn't mana negative. Well, not now. Instead, it'll make it so Splitting Bloom is -1 mana instead of -2, because the Blood River will give Splitting Bloom haste, which means Splitting Bloom can immediately sacrifice the 1/1.
mm,
Um, it's possible that Dodger values that 1/1, because it can like sip. Well, no, actually, because we'll get another 1/1 off the Blood River. Oh, geez. Gets the additional +1 card of playing the last Sacred Gate,
yeah, so it
which
won't get
makes
to
some
Blood River
sense.
this turn.
Yeah, because 2 tokens. This means that he can easily block the Elvish Opportunists, and it looks like he's setting up for, if he draws any untapped source, can slam either Seeker of New Horizons or Scion of the Flourishing next turn, which would be pretty great.
It doesn't even need
Um,
an untapped source because it has Keen's Devoted plus all of this.
oh, right, I was doing my math wrong. Oh, geez, so that means could play Seeker of New Horizons and have a land play
Yeah,
afterwards, which
unfortunately,
is the scariest thing.
unfortunately not a whatchamacallit fetcher, but still pretty good.
Yeah.
Which
Oh
makes the
no,
which
it's
which,
only
which
drawing at least one card.
along with your 3/5. But yeah, which the grabbing the last Sacred Gate instead of playing Blood River that turn suddenly makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's a very heads-up play.
Okay,
And
Sabne's
again,
Autumn and
fine Seismic Colossus. Now, there's the question of, is this too late? Can play Wilted Lotus and another Keen's Devoted this turn, and just hope
yeah,
to next turn slam Seismic Colossus. And I think might also be able to cast a land. 4, 5, 6, 7. Would, as long as he draws a land, would also be able to cast Helene next turn.
which is kind of nutty. And like
So, yeah.
Helen draws him even more cards because he would be out at that point.
Also needs to remember to lose another. Yep. Um, yeah. So if you're in Phil's spot, you're not feeling the worst. I think from where Dodger's sitting though, you know you've locked up this game. Phil did not kill you. You made your land drops, and now you can go ham.
I mean, Seismic Colossus I think is still annoying. Like the lifelink, if it didn't have lifelink, it would be fine. But the lifelink is
You care about the lifelink for precisely one turn until you get to the point where Scion of Flourishing and Seeker of New Horizons together mean that you outsize the Seismic Colossus by a
yeah
lot.
fair, and then you just eat it.
Yeah. And like within a couple of turns, Dodger will be at the point where a freaking sapling can eat that Seismic Colossus.
Is Dodger okay? I was about to say is Dodger playing Intrepid instead? No, okay.
No.
Seeker
Slamming
coming
that
down.
Seeker. Try me a Blood River. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Phil's reaction is entirely reasonable.
Just
When that
deadpan.
Seeker
Oh
comes down,
no.
you're just like, oh no. Because that's how this game's going.
Okay.
Uh,
Land, 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 land.
spin. 2. Win.
Yay! Blood River triggered at the bottom of the stack. Okay.
Oh, Jesus. And that goes to hand, which means he can play off the additional land drop. This game's just over, isn't it? Yeah.
God.
Because now it gets 2 more procs off the Seeker.
Seeker being able to put into hand suddenly changes so much.
Yeah. It's really fascinating, because the last deck I saw that abuse Seeker, never came up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's also something you see a bunch with, shoot. There's a card in Canon Magic right now that does that. I think it used to be in Standard until recently. I think it just got rotated out. But, like, you know, plays cards off the top. Very, very like the Coiling Oracle. Oh, it's, Risen Reef. This came
yeah.
up a bunch with Risen Reef triggers.
Interesting.
Oh, Into the Unknown is now in hand. Uh-oh.
Okay, didn't hit another land, unfortunately for Dodger, but still, like, drew 3 cards, made 3 1/1s. You're
Oh no, just cast a free Ancestral Recall. Damn.
I mean, Ancestral Recall doesn't have ramp attached. It's more like Ancestral Spiral.
That's fair. Would that be blue-green hybrid?
Yes, you know, because green can conditionally draw cards, so that means it's in green spot. Also, green is the best color, fuck you.
Yep.
Okay.
Still trading a token there with an Elvish Opportunist. Value trade, value trade.
Mm-hmm. So now, ooh, Sights Beyond is still not awful, but also
Sights
like,
Beyond can probably draw a card before Phil is dead, so that's exciting. So that means it's basically a better preordain.
mhm.
Um,
I mean, does Dodger just untap and kill Philippe here?
Almost certainly with that Into the Unknown.
Doesn't have any
Like,
more
what
lands is the issue, and
has
does
Intrepid?
Intrepid.
Intrepid to find fetch land.
Intrepid to find a fetcher. Yep.
I didn't realize that Intrepid to find fetch land could be so horrifying, but here we are.
Man,
Um,
Intrepid just putting in work like in all sorts. Like you're like, and I love that Dodger found a place where the most mundane use case for it is the most terrifying because it's been all about the Nerebas and the Monument of Queens, and then Dodger's like, today I will Intrepid for a normal fetch land.
and immediately kill someone with it.
Yeah, and like it's surprisingly relevant because like you never keep around a fetch land, so Intrepid will
No.
always be able to find one. So like the different name clause will never like matter for that. So it's like because usually like the reason you don't find mundane lands is obviously because you have better ones, but even if you didn't, like usually you have enough copies of your mundane lands that you just like play them out first, and so you can't get them with Intrepid. But fetch lands don't count for that. It's just yeah, it's dumb. It's fun. Also, playing out the Sights Beyond first, this does mean can't Helen plus Seismic this turn, right? If I'm doing my math.
No, it's floating in. Yes, can't do that. But I also think doing that takes you off of Concord. No, it doesn't. It puts you right back on Concord. Yeah, it does. It doesn't super matter. It's basically, do you think Helen is going to draw you more cards that the Sights Beyond? Do you think the Scry is relevant? I'm just like, Phil doesn't have any sweepers post board. Like the only thing he has access to is temporary treason.
On Seeker,
But
but then like at that point,
after
I think
next
it's already
turn,
done its job.
after next turn, it'll be too late. So
Well,
needed to draw. I think the right play would have been open with Helen and see if you draw into temporary treason and then slam that if you can,
mhm.
and otherwise slam seismic. Looks like Phil is putting Mysterious Counteract and Sights Beyond on the bottom and Precursor Sanctum on top, which seems rather ambitious.
Yeah,
But
Precursor Sanctum, if it came in untapped, I would agree with that a lot more. Fortunately for literally everyone, it does not. Let me hover over Precursor Sanctum for the audience to see why I say that. Here we go.
I'm pretty sure it used Center on tapped.
It did. This card is an awful
I was gonna
monstrosity.
say, I think I got that card nerfed. I could have sworn it used Center on tapped.
This is a terrifying monster. But speaking of terrifying monsters, Seismic Colossus. It's going to be swinging. I think Philippe is considering whether. Oh, he's going to swing in. It has
I mean,
vigilance.
it has vigilance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no doubt.
Yeah, sorry. I had a little bit of questing beast syndrome right there.
Yeah.
And because of Helen emblem gets to draw into another sight speed.
Wow.
I guess kept the sights beyond on
Yeah,
top.
I guess I misread that. Yeah.
No, I guess kept both Precursor Sanctum and sights beyond on top. Not sure why.
Notably is about to fetch to throw away the Precursor Sanctum.
Ah, okay. So it was basically just want sights beyond on top.
Yeah. And then can play Sights Beyond afterwards to set up an next draw and hope for something good. No, he's leaving up 3 mana. What is... Oh! Oh, Phil can, activate
Flip
Zap Base on
Sabne?
him.
Oh god.
Man, that'd be really sweet if he wasn't about to die horribly.
I mean, is he? How much damage does Dodger need here?
So, Dodger effectively needs, 19 points to get through because of Seismic Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
Into the Unknown plus a fetch land gives, at minimum, +2/+2 to the entire team. If you hit a single land off the Seeker, that number jumps up drastically. And +2/+2 across 7 bodies is going to be 14, +6 base power is throwing 20 power in Phil's direction. So, needs to draw a little bit to do broken things here, but only a little bit. Yeah. I mean, this is a matchup where you kind of have to have a lot of times where you just pray for the best. Where you're just like, alright, well, pass the turn, if they have this, I'm dead, so let's just play as if they don't have it, because there's nothing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Which we're kind of seeing a lot of that with the Blues Eclipse matchup that we saw earlier. No spoilers, but
Yeah.
has a
I
similar
mean,
energy.
they're both essentially combo-ish matchups
Yeah.
without much interaction. You can guess the rest. And okay, here comes a Tropical Grove off the Intrepid. Thank you,
So-
Monofetches. Very cool.
Spin to win.
Do, 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 do.
Magic is not a game about gambling. Don't worry about it.
Mhm. Do not
Ooh,
try to
it's going for a
gamble with the
different
precious
fetch.
cards.
Oh yeah, wants to go for a different fetch because, oh my god. Oh my fucking god.
Wait, why? Oh no. Camouflage Sparios. Can. Is that
Yeah.
cast. Does he have the mana?
Yep, just taps the 2 Kings devoted. Because he has 8 creatures.
I guess, but is that actually. Is that actually good? Because Camouflage Sparios
It's
doesn't have haste. That takes off two potential things that you could buff.
it's okay. Is it good in the sense of does it kill Phil's turn? No. Is it good in the sense that it cuts off Phil's ability to crack back in with the Seismic Colossus and, just generally ensures that you'll get the kill next turn?
Yeah, fair.
Um,
Man, why did we wait? What's the cannon card that does this? The
a
worm.
Panglacial Worm.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
did
the
why do?
fact we have a Panglacial Worm and a Panglacial Worm land into the deck, or sorry, in the format, is something that has always bewildered me.
Yeah, how does this happen?
Um,
I guess I feel like this is one of those things where we're like, it is not
they
playable.
they've been in the format since basically the beginning of the format.
Hmm.
Both of them actually.
Hmm.
I think they're both sets from the first 2 waves.
I mean, yeah, I've seen Camouflage Sparios in like one or
Naya
two decks.
tokens played it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Naya tokens, black green tokens, but also like who authorized this? I am in big manager speak mode.
Oh geez. Also, Intrepid's about to outgrow the Seismic Colossus.
Oh, fun.
So we'll see what the Seeker hits. If Seeker draws a land, I think this game is basically over. Oh great, grabs the Hillock just, for more lethal threats next turn.
Hmm.
Um,
And so Philippe needs to kill. How much mana does Philippe have? Does
oh my god.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, this is
Seeker just grabs Tropical Growth. That's, yeah, to be honest, this matchup doesn't feel especially winnable. I'm with you, Phil. I
again,
don't think
it
with the
is
sideboard you had,
it is
uh,
winnable if you yeah,
if you actually not draw.
y-
If
I-
you actually not draw or you have better sideboard tech,
no, I
then
think if you build your sideboard better and if Dodger doesn't draw Seeker, I think that's really it. Like
yeah.
Dodger having early Seekers in both of these games really screwed up Phil. But otherwise
I think,
I think you can definitely outvalue. And again, it doesn't have the draw.
yeah.
So, but as soon as Dodger has the Seeker is like a one man. I'm gonna draw my deck, and Philippe's plan is I'm gonna outvalue you, and therefore doesn't run any interaction, and that's just
I'm
like
ninety
well,
percent. I'm 90% sure this Camouflage Sparrow's cost. Yeah, that Dodger would have had lethal this turn otherwise. Dodger might still end up with lethal this turn anyways.
I mean no,
Um,
Dodger's definitely ending up with lethal. Are you joking? The Shifting Crag plus the Tropical Grove.
yeah, that's another 2+1/+1 counters on everything.
Yeah, and also I think at that point,
Brutal.
yeah, that was
Jeez. Alright, this tournament's off to one hell of a start.
yeah. I think we were talking about how I love how this was not even one of the linear decks on our radar, and yet it's it was just today I will goldfish turn 4 5 wins. Like this is definitely a tournament of linear decks. So I think that I don't know that doesn't sound very exciting, but I think um it's a moment in our format's history which I think is unique, and I think it also creates a dynamic between the interactive and the linear decks or the more linear-ish decks um, that will be interesting to see as the tournament plays out.
I think one of the most interesting and important things that we're going to see in this tournament is the importance of sideboarding. Because when everyone in the room is on one form of linear deck or another, and it isn't everyone on the room, we have 10 combo decks out of 22 players. We have another 3 aggro decks that are various different shades of sorry, 2 aggro decks. So that's up
Yeah,
to 12
yeah. It's actually we have
linear
we
decks.
have an exactly even split between interactive and non-interactive decks.
Yeah, and it also starts depending on how you count some of these kind of mid-rangey decks. Because some of them are very interactive and some of them are basically
As we
zero
just
interactive,
as we just
as we
saw.
just watched.
Hmm.
Um, but if you, because this was an open decklist tournament, people had the ability to design sideboards. And I think the most interesting thing is, while evaluating people's sideboards, how many cards can they bring in? And obviously, when you are a combo deck or a linear deck, you don't want to overboard. You have your core game plan you need to establish and utilize. But at the same time, if there are matchups that are bad for you, you need to have tech for them. Um, I think, for instance, all the mid-range decks, if you look at how I built my sideboard, the mid-range decks need to have so much interaction post-board, or hate pieces, because that's the only way you're going to be able to beat a lot of these decks.
Yeah, and I think like, yeah, I think forcing them to actually be interactive can only be a good thing.
Yeah. I
I think
I think it
I think
is
I think the thing is like the angle of interaction that some of the decks demand. We'll have to see how healthy that is, but in general, the more interaction that decks need to play, I think the better a format is.
definitely agree with that. And I also think it's important to know that control and mid-range has dominated the format for the past several GPs.
Hmm.
Um, like control decks have
Like
won
we saw Intrepid there.
control or
Intrepid has
prison.
been like a solid role player for a bunch of these decks, and I think that
Yeah,
like our mana bases encourage like or like and like up until recently have encouraged like more greedy styles of decks, and like I think that only helps control and mid range because they can just start playing the best threats, the best answers, etc. And I
yeah,
think we're just getting to the point where like these linear decks are starting to like tax that and be like, oh okay, sure, 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 you want to do that? I'm just gonna get under all of your greed pile stuff. You cool with that? Cool, cool, cool. Glad to have this
yeah.
conversation.
And it's interesting because I don't think it was an intentional meta call where people are like, oh, everyone's dirtling with value. I'm gonna go and do something linear. I think it's just we had a bunch of people who found linear decks they genuinely enjoyed, and so wanted to play those decks. And
I mean,
I do
there's
think
also
there
this
was,
dynamic that I think you articulated and a few other people articulated was that
yeah,
there was a very strong linear deck in the dredge, which we haven't seen matchups of it yet, but dredge kind of like was putting up some very fast starts, and so people were like, well, okay, trying to be interactive versus this doesn't seem like it's going to be as fruitful. So let me try to find a different angle of attack to come at this. Of course,
yeah, and
whether that's true in like an open deck list format still remains to be seen.
I think I think it is always a very notable thing when Percy, Egg, and myself all decide, cool, I'm not bringing counterspells to this GP. Like that that sends a very clear message about the state of counter magic in this GP. And both Egg and Percy stuck to control decks, and I'm on a kind of
Also,
mid-range deck.
Hersey did bring counter magic. She was on 4x cursory glance, but I get what you mean in
Oh,
general.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't see those in the deck list. I
yeah.
did actually
As we
read the deck
established in
list,
chat
but
earlier, you didn't look at Hersey's deck list.
I did look at it after that, but I managed to miss those.
Hmm.
Mostly because I was only looking for win conditions.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, okay. I think this has been a good discussion, but also I think we're getting a little bit long. So
yes.
for
All right.
this match, until next time, this is Caillou and Pip signing off.